There's a moment that happens to people who are very good at what they do. Not to the mediocre ones, not to the people coasting, to the ones who actually care, who actually try, who have actually built something real. It happens at the exact moment of recognition. The promotion comes through. The relationship deepens into something serious. The project gets chosen. The room turns toward you, and someone says, in front of everyone, that you are exactly what was needed here. And something in your chest doesn't rise to meet it. Something in your chest goes very still, and a voice, quiet, familiar, entirely convincing, says, "They don't know yet, but they will." If you felt that, I want you to hear something before we go any further. You are not uniquely broken. You are not secretly incompetent. You are not the one person in history whose success was a statistical error. You are a person with high standards in a world that hands out confidence freely to people with low ones. And that combination, high standards, genuine effort, real investment, produces, almost inevitably, the thing you've been treating as evidence of your inadequacy. It produces doubt. And today, I want to show you why that doubt is not the problem. It's the proof. Let's name the thing first, because naming it takes away some of its power. What you're experiencing has a name. Psychologists Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes named it in 1978, the imposter phenomenon, or as it's more commonly called now, imposter syndrome. And here's the first thing to know about it, the thing that should immediately reframe the whole conversation. When Clance and Imes first studied it, they expected to find it in people who were underperforming, people who had genuinely gotten somewhere they didn't belong. What they found was the opposite. They found it concentrated in high achievers, in people with external evidence of competence so strong it was almost impossible to dispute, in people whose colleagues and supervisors would have laughed at the suggestion that they didn't belong. The people most convinced they were frauds were, by every measurable standard, the least likely to be. That's not a coincidence. That's the mechanism. Because the imposter feeling isn't generated by incompetence, it's generated by awareness. It's generated by the gap between what you know you don't know and what the people around you seem to assume you do. And here's the brutal irony at the center of all of this. The more you know about something, the more clearly you can see your own gaps. The beginner sees nothing, because they don't have the map yet. They don't know what they don't know. So they proceed with confidence, because confidence is easy when the territory is invisible. The expert sees everything, every gap, every uncertainty, every question that doesn't have a clean answer yet, every place where the field is genuinely unsettled and anyone claiming certainty is performing. And the expert looks at the beginner's confidence and concludes, something is wrong with me. That conclusion has it exactly backwards. Your doubt is not evidence of your inadequacy. Your doubt is evidence of your depth. The person who has no doubt hasn't looked closely enough to find the edges yet. You have. Now let me go deeper, because the mechanism matters, and most explanations stop too early. Here's the question nobody asks. Why does recognition specifically trigger it? Because it does. The feeling isn't constant. It spikes at certain moments. The promotion, the compliment, the moment someone chooses you. Why then? Here's why. Recognition changes the stakes. Before you were recognized, the gap between who they thought you were and who you actually are was theoretical. Nobody was watching closely enough for it to matter. You could be quietly uncertain and nobody would know. The moment they choose you, truly, publicly, fully, the gap becomes dangerous. Because now, if they find out, it isn't just you finding out, it's everyone. The imposter feeling is a threat response. It's your nervous system noticing that the visibility just increased and calculating the new exposure and sounding the alarm. It isn't irrational. It's a completely logical response to a real change in your situation. The problem isn't the alarm. The problem is that it's been calibrated to a threat that doesn't match reality, because the gap it's measuring isn't actually as large as it feels. But let's go one level deeper still, because this is where it gets important. Why do some people feel this and others don't? It's not about ability. We've established that. It's not about competence. It's about the internal model of what success is supposed to feel like. Some people, not more talented people, not harder working people, grew up with a model of success as a state of arrival, a place where doubt ends, where you finally know, where it stops being effortful. And because that's the model, they interpret the continuation of doubt as evidence that they haven't truly arrived, that they're still pretending, that the real version of this would feel different. Others, and this is important, had a different model installed, usually by someone who showed them, early, what it looks like to be genuinely good at something and still uncertain. A parent who was expert and humble. A teacher who said, "I don't know," without apology. Someone who demonstrated that mastery and doubt coexist. Those people don't experience the doubt as fraud. They experience it as normal, as the texture of caring. So part of what's happening underneath all of this is that you've been measuring your inside against other people's outside and concluding that their apparent confidence means they know something you don't. They don't. They're either not looking as closely as you are, or they've simply stopped interpreting doubt as evidence of anything. That's the whole difference. Not talent, not knowledge, just the interpretation. Write this in the comments now, before we go further. I am not a fraud. I am someone who cares enough to doubt. Actually write it, and look at the second sentence, because it's doing the real work. Not I am not a fraud, full stop. That's just a denial. Denials don't change anything. You've denied it to yourself 100 times and it came back an hour later. I am someone who cares enough to doubt is a reframe at the level of identity. It doesn't argue with the doubt. It reclassifies it. It says, this feeling isn't evidence of what I thought it was evidence of. It's evidence of something else entirely. That reframe, practiced with enough consistency, changes the alarm. Not immediately, not the first time. But the interpretation is the thing that can be changed, and the interpretation is what this is built on. So write it, and then let's talk about what to actually do. First, separate performance from identity. This is the core move, and most people never make it. You are not your output, not your last project, not your last decision, not the thing that went wrong last Tuesday. The imposter feeling almost always lives at the level of identity. It says, I am a fraud, not that specific thing was wrong. And identity-level claims are unfalsifiable. You can't disprove I am a fraud with evidence, because the voice will just reinterpret the evidence. Good work becomes luck. Good feedback becomes them not seeing clearly. It's a closed loop. Open the loop by making it specific, not I'm not good enough. What, specifically, would good enough look like? Write it, make it concrete. Because good enough as an abstract standard is always just out of reach. That's what abstract standards do. Make it specific and you can actually assess it. Almost universally, the specific version is something you already meet. The abstract version never is. Second, collect evidence you actually believe. You've been collecting evidence for the prosecution. It's time to build the defense file. Not compliments you dismiss, not achievements you minimize. Actual moments, specific, detailed, undeniable, where you helped something, built something, solved something, showed up for someone. Write them down, not to convince yourself, just to have them. Because the imposter voice has a very specific weakness. It can't coexist with specifics. It thrives in abstraction. You're not good enough is abstract and unassailable. You solved that specific problem in that specific meeting, and that specific person thanked you 6 months later is a fact, and facts have edges, and the imposter voice doesn't like edges. Third, name the voice, and don't argue with it. This sounds counterintuitive. You'd think the right move is to challenge it. Don't. Arguing with the imposter voice is like arguing with a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving. You're not going to win, and the attempt just gives it more material. Instead, name it. Ah, the voice is back. That's it. That's the whole practice. The naming creates distance. Suddenly, it isn't you having a thought. It's you observing a voice having a thought. And what you observe, you are not. The observer is always slightly outside the thing being observed. That tiny gap is everything. You don't need to convince the voice it's wrong. You just need to stop identifying with it as the truth about you. Fourth, and this is the one nobody wants to do, let people see you uncertain. Not perform uncertainty. Actually be uncertain, in front of someone, without rushing to resolve it. Say I don't know, and leave it there. Ask the question you're afraid makes you look like you should have known the answer. Admit the thing you didn't get right, without the 14-word explanation for why it wasn't really your fault. Here's why this is the cure, and not just a nice idea. The imposter syndrome is fundamentally a hiding strategy. The fear is that if people see you clearly, uncertainties, gaps, wrong calls and all, they'll withdraw. They'll see through the performance and leave. The only way to disprove that fear is to stop hiding and observe what actually happens. And what actually happens, almost universally, is nothing like what you feared. What actually happens is that people trust you more. Because a person willing to be uncertain in public is a person who doesn't have a secret version they're concealing, and everyone can feel the absence of concealment, even if they can't name what they're feeling. Your uncertainty, shown honestly, is more convincing than your competence performed perfectly. Because everyone knows performed competence when they feel it, and everyone relaxes when they stop feeling it. Now let me talk about something that goes deeper than strategy. Because there's a version of this that isn't really about competence at all. There are people for whom the fear of being seen isn't they'll find out I'm not good enough at the work. It's something older and more personal than that. It's they'll find out who I actually am, not my performance, me. And that version isn't acceptable. That one doesn't come from a career. That one comes from somewhere much earlier, from a childhood where being truly known wasn't safe, where the real version of you got a reaction that taught you, clearly, consistently, that the real version needed editing before public display. So you got very good at editing, so good that now the performance is seamless, and the gap between the performance and the person is invisible to everyone except you. And the imposter feeling, in that version, isn't really about fraud. It's about the terror of intimacy, of being fully known, of what might happen if the editing stopped. If that's you, and you'll know if it is, this isn't something that resolves through a practice. It resolves through relationship. Through the experience of being actually known by someone, not the curated version, and having them stay. Not because you performed well enough, because you were real. That experience is what rewrites the old rule. Not insight, not practice, experience. Which means the prescription isn't self-work. It's risking a real connection with one real person. Terrifying, worth it. Now let me tell you what happens on the other side. The imposter feeling doesn't disappear. I want to be honest about that, because people who promise it disappears are setting you up for another round of, something is wrong with me, it should be gone by now. What changes is the relationship with it. It shows up less frequently. When it does show up, it's quieter. And most importantly, you stop treating it as breaking news. You start treating it the way an experienced surgeon treats trembling hands before a difficult procedure, not as a sign that they shouldn't operate, but as a sign that they understand the stakes. The feeling stops being an obstacle and starts being information. And a person who can use their doubt as information rather than being paralyzed by it, that person is more capable than the one who feels no doubt at all. Not despite the doubt, because of it. Let me end with this. The people who changed things, the ones who built what mattered, solved what needed solving, made what endured, almost none of them felt certain. The certainty you're waiting for, the feeling of finally belonging in the room, of finally deserving the thing you've been given, it doesn't come before the work. It doesn't come during the work. If it comes at all, it comes after, and by then, you've already moved to the next room where the doubt starts fresh. That's not a tragedy. That's what it means to be someone who keeps raising the standard. The doubt follows ambition the way a shadow follows a person. The bigger the thing you're reaching for, the longer the shadow. You can spend your life trying to lose the shadow, or you can understand that a person without a shadow isn't standing in the light. You're in the light. That's why the shadow is there. That's why the doubt is there. Not because you don't belong, because you do. And because belonging, for people like you, never comes with the certainty you expected. It comes with exactly this: the room, the work, the doubt, and the decision to show up anyway. You've been making that decision for years. That's not fraud. That's courage, with a convincing disguise.